Hey guys, in tonight's video, we're going to be talking about trying to, well, it's actually the hardest thing to learn is something you think you already know. So, in means of that is, have you ever tried something or has anybody ever come to you? It's like after you learn to ride a bike and someone comes to you and they say, this is the right way to ride a bike, but you've already got your way of doing it. So you're not going to listen to them because your way works. It's the same concept as that. And I see that a lot with people getting sober. So when you're trying to get sober and you've done AA, and this is how it works most of the time, honestly, is you go into the rooms of AA and somebody says, this is how it worked for me, so this is how it's going to work for you. But it didn't work for you once. So you say, no, it's not going to work for me again. And it's because you think you already know. My way of teaching is another way, that helps you understand more mentally aspect of how things work on a common base ground that can relate to any religion, any AA refuge, what is it called, smart recovery, any of the top following things. This is just a broad scheme of things. So, but if you try something and it didn't work for you once, you're going to think that it's never going to work for you again most of the time. I mean, that's how I was with AA. I hated it. It didn't work. I tried it twice, and both times. The second time I was like even hesitant to try it again, but I went in, tried it anyways, and when it didn't work, I just blamed myself and I said, you know what? this doesn't work. Not for me. And I mean, I never gave it the chance to work. I mean, I still learning this stuff, though, have opened my mind to AA and see how many things relate in that program to what I teach. And it's very true. A lot of things I teach relate back to AA or back to refuge. Any religion you speak of or believe in, this relates to. And, we have these core beliefs. So you can't go, I like this. I was reading a book by Mara Gleason, and she said that when we have, she went into a room and studied with a bunch of people and had them talking. And two of the guys were these scientists that were incredibly smart, and they thought they knew everything. And every single time she said something, they'd say, yeah, but this, and come up with a rebuttal of something like that prove her wrong, rather than open their minds and listen to what's going on around them. And when they finally did, after about 3 days of going through this course with Mark Gleason, one of the guys who thought he knew everything said for the first time ever, he realized that his mind was like a library of books, and he'd studied every single one in and out, in and out, in and out. And if you asked him any questions on any of the books in his library, he could answer you with the fact that that's the answer. But he realized for the first time ever that that library had a front door. And outside of that front door was an entire world, was an entirely new open space with so much more to learn, even on top of the same things he already learned. But this is a more vast world of inner spirit and mindfulness and being here in the moment. Allowing this space to open up from him allowed him to take critique and be a more understanding boss to his underbeings and his work, making their lives easier at the same time. Now, another case in that is he was talking about, she was talking to another guy, and he had been so jittery for years and years and years to go, like maybe 30 years of his life. He was a young guy, and he always felt like he had to be busy and that the next thing had to happen, and he had to have it planned out. And if he wasn't doing something, he was bored. So his problem is he was afraid of boredom, which I know for me, I was always afraid of boredom too. I always had to be doing something. But when he realized that this whole concept of, trying to learn something you think you already know is the hardest thing to learn, because he thought he knew exactly what he needed to be done. He thought he knew that he had to do this next thing to stay busy, because if he wasn't busy, he'd be bored, and if he was bored, that would be a bad thing. For the first time in his life, I think it was like the third day of the course they were in. He went home and he sat down with his wife and they had dinner and they went to bed. And the next morning, she had said to him, I have this job interview. I need you to bring the kids to school, which he never does, and she always did. And he's always like did not want to go take the kids to school because it was like a mile walk, so they didn't have to take the car. And he had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and it was just like daycare, but it took forever. It felt like a lifetime getting them there because one would stop walking and stare at a pile of poop on the ground that a dog made, or pick a flower or a piece of grass, and they're just slow children in general. So, but so for the first time ever, though, he realized he had been missing out on his children's lives, and he took a quick glimpse at it. He said, "My children are the most interesting things in the world. The way they observe things, brand new to them for the first time ever, is unbelievable. Children are geniuses." And this man, for 20-some years, even before his children were born, was afraid of boredom, so he was always thinking of the next thing and not being right here and right now, allowing what it is to happen. So he thought he knew what he needed, and he thought what he needed was not to be bored. And he thought being with his children was boredom, being at home was boredom, and he always had to be doing the next thing, either planning for work or planning for this. And you see this a lot with people that go on vacation. And when they're on vacation, they're stuck in work for a few days before they get off work, and they can actually spend the last 2 days of their week vacation enjoying it with their wives and their families, because they're so circled up in their minds about what's going to happen or what's going on somewhere completely different. So these are things, this concept of the hardest thing to learn is something we think we already know. And if you don't know, then, give it a shot. And even if you do know, still listen. There is no harm in listening and learning more. All right, guys. Thank you so much.